Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Sarala, Assistant Professor in the Department of Nephrology at Jesus Medical College and Hospital, Mysuru. Today, I talk to you on behalf of the social media team of the Women in Nephrology India group. WINICON 2023 is the second national annual conference of Women in Nephrology India group and is planned on 5th and 6th of August 2023 at Pope Paul's Auditorium, St. John's Medical College and Research Institute, Bengaluru. We are very fortunate to have with us today Professor Dr. Sarala Devi Naicker, an eminent personality in the field of nephrology, for the interview today. Dr. Sarala Naicker is the Professor Emeritus of Medicine and Chair of Graduate Studies and Research of the School of Clinical Medicine at the University of Wits, Johannesburg. She has earlier been the Academical Head, Department of Internal Medicine and Division of Nephrology at Wits University. She was also the President of South African Renal Society and the South African Transplantation Society and has chaired South African Ministerial Advisory Committee for Transplantation. She is currently the Executive Council member of African Association of Nephrology and the South African Nephrology Society. Madam has also served on ISN Council and the ISN Executive Committee, the ISPD Council, and has also chaired the ISN Africa Regional Committee, the ISN Education Committee, ISN Nominating Committee, the ISPD Fellowship and Award Committee, and has also been the inaugural chair of ISN Educational Ambassador Program. She was a member of the KDIGO Executive Committee and has co-chaired the DICG Professional Societies Working Group. She has also supervised postgraduate students at master and PhD levels and has over 17 book chapters and 180 publications in peer-reviewed journals to her credit. She is the recipient of multiple accolades from both national and international organizations. She has received the ISN Roscoe Robinson Award in 2009, the Distinguished Medal of the National Kidney Foundation, the Philip Tobias Distinguished Teaching Award of the University of Wits, and the Exceptional Service Medal and the Postgraduate Supervisor Award from the University of Wits. A warm welcome to you, ma'am, today to the interview.
Thank you very much, and it's a real pleasure to be with you today. I feel greatly honored to be a speaker at the forthcoming WIN conference, and I'm sorry that I won't be able to be there in person, but I look forward to joining you virtually at that conference.
We look forward for your session as well, ma'am.
Thank you for your very kind introduction also.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, your stellar work in nephrology has inspired many nephrologists, both in Africa and the rest of the world. If I may ask, how did you choose a career in nephrology? And what drives you to overcome all the challenges you faced earlier?
There's a long answer to that short question. To start with, I did not intend to be a nephrologist, let's put it that way. I started life wanting to be a family physician, to serve people in the community. So when I was fortunate enough to be admitted to medical school, that was my goal, right until the time I graduated and was serving my internship. And then a friend asked me to assist one weekend when I was at home during a very busy influenza epidemic. And I found it quite boring. Maybe I was very immature and naive to find it boring, because I think a lot of what I'm doing in nephrology now is something that a good family physician does anyway. So as I said, it's obviously an indication of my immaturity. And then when I went to train in internal medicine and successfully got through those exams, my chief said, "Congratulations, and what are you going to do next?" I said, "Well, I'd like to be a specialist physician in the department." He said, "That's great, but I'm developing specialities in medicine." And he offered me a whole lot of specialities. And the one he did not offer me, I must stress at this point, was nephrology. He offered me everything else, rheumatology, gastroenterology, blah, blah, blah. You can name it, at least 6 or 7, because in those days, I suppose we were in Durban at the University of Natal, as it was called then. We had a very good department of undergraduate medicine and also postgraduates, in that people were getting their fellowships in medicine, but there weren't the subspecialists or super specialists, as they were called. And my chief, who was a nephrologist, was trying to build nephrology, but he didn't offer it to me because nobody actually took him up, or when they took him up, they did not stay. And then, much to his surprise, I said, I'd like to do nephrology. And that was the start of it. And I think my main motivation to do it was that just before I went for my exams in internal medicine, starting with the MRCP in London, I worked with a team of wonderful nurses. I was the only resident there in a large hospital of almost 2,000 beds. So you can imagine how busy I was running around the whole hospitals, consulting in obstetrics and gynae and internal medicine, surgery, you name it. We were offering the service. And I had one part-time consultant supervising me. And we had this small team because we had a very small hemodialysis unit where we're doing acute hemodialysis. And our main means of dialysis was acute PD. So I basically had a very, very busy rotation, but I loved it for 2 reasons. You could see the difference you are making with your acute dialysis in all these patients who are coming in, all the obstetric, AKI, all the toxins, all the malaria. People were coming in desperately ill, and you sort of really stretched yourself to see these people through their critical illnesses. And I could not have done it with this team of wonderful nurses. And I think that was one of my main attractions to nephrology, the teamwork that makes nephrology successful. And subsequently as well, I found the most important thing to have a successful nephrology unit is a team where everybody's valued and everybody contributes the best, in their different spheres. So I think that's what kept me enthused and excited about nephrology. Besides, in those days, there was very little going on in dialysis. We didn't even have a transplant unit. So basically, it was a pioneering time for us. And because there was nobody else much doing the stuff, I really had to step up, even though I felt very incompetent and very inadequate. So I think it was really an exciting beginning and an exciting time in my life.
Thank you, ma'am. We are indeed nothing without our staff nurses and dialysis technicians. Nephrology is indeed a lot of teamwork. Ma'am, moving ahead, we are very fortunate to have you join us at the WINICON 2023 for the Dr. V.N. Acharya Memorial Oration on symptomatic care in CKD. As clinicians, we often tend to focus more on reversible causes of CKD or methods of retarding progression of CKD. And although well-intentioned, this approach may not always be patient-centric. So how do you think we can change? How can we do better? Could you just give us a glimpse of your talk?
So basically, as you've mentioned, in fact, one of the things that attracted me to nephrology is a curative aspects, the reversible aspects. And it was quite a shock to me initially to have to deal with people who have irreversible disease, actually telling people that they have end-stage kidney failure. In a lot of times then, and even now in many parts of the world, is a death sentence because we can't really give people dialysis, even in the best of centers in Africa, because we don't have the resources. And I'm sure in a lot of Asia and India as well, much as you'd like to offer supportive dialysis and transplantation to people, we don't have the resources, financial and human resources to do this. So when one thinks about supportive and symptomatic care in nephrology, having said that, it shouldn't only be restricted to nephrology. It should apply to all chronic diseases where people are significantly symptomatic. And to me, when I think about supportive care or symptomatic care, we are going beyond the curative aspects of disease. You're looking at holistic patient care. What are you doing to help your patients in different aspects? Firstly, the physical symptoms of their disease. As we all know, with chronic kidney disease and chronic kidney failure, there's a whole host of symptoms that we have to help patients navigate, either by dietary means or medication. So that's something that one can physically do. And to me, the most important aspect, I think, is a psychological aspect, because you find that, especially with young people, it's the acceptance that they have a chronic irreversible disease. That's such a shock. And if they don't come to accepting this early enough, they actually don't handle their disease so well. They tend to have more complications for various reasons, which I don't think we can discuss now. So I think that's the aim of supportive care, to help your patient holistically, so that while they're laboring under the sentence of chronic kidney disease, it does not mean it's the end of their life. We want to help them to live with this diagnosis and to be happy and productive. And besides the patient itself, I think supportive care should also interact with the family, because when people have chronic kidney disease, it doesn't only affect the individual, it affects the whole family. So I think we should also bring in family support into it. And I think a big component is also people's religious beliefs, and besides psychological support, spiritual support according to people's beliefs is very important. While this all sounds very good, I must say that it's not easy to provide, especially, in a clinic where you have a lot of patients to go through. You don't have your team who could help you with your supportive care, and you've just got restricted time to deal with your patient who's sitting in front of you. So therefore, I think we need to have well-developed teams that could help with the different aspects of supportive care. And the important thing is that it does not have to be the nephrologist who delivers it. It has to be everybody. And I think we also need to train our undergraduate students about how important holistic care is, and that supportive care should be part of what we as health practitioners offer our patients with different diseases.
True, ma'am. We're looking forward for your talk on this subject. It's not very often discussed subject, but very important, as you emphasize the holistic care in nephrology. Ma'am, for the conference, we have a lot of trainee nephrology residents taking part and early career nephrologists pitching in. What would be your advice or your message to them?
One of the things I would say to any physician, a trainee, a resident, is that I think one should not work in a silo as just dealing with the kidney. One needs to think about the person with kidney disease, and the fact that as nephrologists, we are fortunate in that we need to have to know about everything that can interact with the kidney and affect kidney functioning and kidney disease. And therefore, I would encourage our nephrology trainees, both undergraduate and postgraduate, to think broadly, think outside the very narrow ology, as I would put it, but just to think about the person with the disease and try and help them. And I think one of the important things about nephrology is not to be frustrated, because I think all of us have come through the system where we want to do a lot for our patients, but your hands are tied because you don't have the resources. So therefore, I think it's important not to give up. And this is also where supportive care comes in. While you may not be able to offer somebody dialysis, you can still give them a good quality of life by treating their symptoms, by supporting them psychologically and spiritually. And I often say to my colleagues that I think as a nephrologist, you need to be an advocate for your patient. You must not give up when you can't get something. So if your institution cannot support you, one needs to think outside the box and think, what can you do to provide care for your patients? And I think nowadays one could go to NGOs, to charities, to international organizations. So I think the important thing is not to give up and to try and do your best for your patient at all times. I'm sure that goes true for everything else, but I think it's more acute in nephrology, especially when somebody has end stage, that you really have to try and achieve these goals.
Thank you,
And I
ma'am.
must say, it's such an honor for me to be giving the Professor Acharya lecture. I remember meeting Vidya Acharya on a few trips to conferences in India. I'm being really honored meeting her and chatting with her. She's such a wise woman, a gentle person, and I feel really honored to be giving this named lecture in her honor.
Thanks a lot for joining us today. And please do join us, the residents or the nephrologists who are watching this interview. The conference is hybrid, and please do join us for the WINICON 2023, planned on August 5th and 6th at Bengaluru. Thank you.